I want to start with what the heck's going on at the White House first, and we're waiting on Tom Winter. And trust me, I want to get to New Hampshire. I know the exit polls have just plucked in, and all I'm going to tell you is I have a feeling we're going to have an interesting night tonight. That's the good news, okay? If you're a political junkie, buckle in, have a good time, order the food, get the takeout, and pull up a chair. What is going on? President Trump knows how to get away with stuff when we're not watching. What's he trying to get away with?
We're trying to figure that out. Carrie Kupek, who's the Justice Department spokesperson, saying there hasn't been communication between the White House and the Justice Department. But this move comes to essentially say they're going to reduce the sentence of Roger Stone hours after the president tweeted, "This is a horrible and very unfair situation. The real crimes were on the other side. As nothing happens to them, cannot allow this miscarriage of justice." As you said, 3 prosecutors now moving to resign. So the question becomes, is that in fact the case? Was there no communication between the White House and the Justice Department on this? And I keep going back to this, Chuck, which is a number of Republicans who were critical of the president during the impeachment proceedings said, we think he's learned a lesson in the wake of this. The question is, has he learned a lesson? And that's what a lot of Democrats have been asking, particularly when they see this development or the ousters, for example.
Another one today. There's also a Pentagon.
Correct.
It was supposed to be a Senate-confirmed position, somebody in an acting role, boom, yanked, right?
Yanked, and of course, it again fuels
this
question.
It was emails, right? The emails that they cooperated were on the Ukraine aid, right? Correct?
Right.
Yes.
Cooperation on the Ukraine aid, and the question becomes, is this president not more emboldened in the wake of his acquittal? And is this not yet another example of that?
Well, hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor, subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Meet the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.